I'm not a very good athlete.
Refugees have been learning to speak English at Southcliffe Baptist for 20 years. Early on, Bosnians learned a new language. Many of today's students come from a different war-torn land. Texas is preparing to receive more than 4,000 refugees from Afghanistan, and churches here have become part of the front lines in welcoming them.
Southcliffe has always been there for the refugees.
Helmand Wardock and his family arrived 6 years ago. They're thriving in large part due to Southcliffe. In addition to English classes, the church provides community and a safety net for those struggling to survive. After a 6-month honeymoon, their government housing and food allowance runs out.
What happens after is like the refugees mostly they are left by their own. So that's where the churches such as Southcliffe, they come into action.
Across North Texas, hundreds of church volunteers have signed up and trained to help resettle those who fled Afghanistan. Northwood Church is sponsoring 3 families.
We're actually going to acquire 3 apartments and put those families up for 12 months.
April Hale volunteered to organize clothing needs after following Afghanistan on the news.
I found myself at home watching everything unfold, feeling helpless, and just wishing that I could find something to do to help them. When I found out that we were going to be able to help some families through our church, there it is. You know, that's my answer.
Her attitude may mark a shift in evangelical thinking towards refugees. During the Trump administration, the U.S. slashed the numbers allowed in to 15,000. That forced some faith-based agencies like World Relief to lay off staff and close offices. A 2018 Pew poll showing declining support for refugees among white evangelicals led many to wonder if the church was losing its vision for ministry. Now, the Biden administration plans to admit more refugees, and resettlement agencies are ramping back up. They're rehiring, recruiting volunteers, and stocking supplies. Next year, World Relief in North Texas will help resettle 4 times the number it did last year.
We are quickly expanding our offices, our staff.
Northwood pastor and World Relief partner Bob Roberts says he's seen an overwhelming response.
I think there's a shift that's taking place. We're coming back to who we are.
What's helped, a host of Christians with ties to ministries in Afghanistan, plus veterans.
The right response is we've been in the war. We have marginalized people to use them in the war in good conscience. We can't walk away from those people. That's not American.
Southcliffe pastor Stu Kokenauer says refugees have changed his church.
We have persecuted Christians in this church that are just so grateful to be in a nation where they can worship Jesus without fear of the army busting in.
And churches are changing lives. Zaheer, a former U.S. interpreter, fled Afghanistan in August with his wife and son.
Agency, they are providing, everything. Like they provide, like in the first, from the first day till now.
A church member co-signed for his apartment, and he's now looking for a job, any job. Wardock, meanwhile, is trying to help his 20 family members who worked with the U.S. government but can't get out of the country.
So we are just trying to talk to them, speak to them every day, just to calm them down.
As these refugees rebuild their lives here and try to help loved ones back home, they face plenty of risk and unknowns. One certainty, however, is the growing number of churches committed to helping them navigate a new culture while pointing them to the love of Christ. Reporting in North Texas, Heather Sells, CBN News.